Top Accolade Global News Update. I am Prophet Mohammed. At least 52 people were killed and more than 50 injured on Friday in a suicide attack on a religious gathering to mark the birthday of Prophet Mohammed in Pakistan's restive Balochistan province. Health officials and police said no group has claimed responsibility for the blast, which comes amid a surge in attacks claimed by militant groups in the west of the country, raising the stakes for security forces ahead of national elections scheduled for January next year. The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, an umbrella group of various hardline Sunni Islamist groups, denied it had carried out the attack. The casualties were being treated at hospitals in the nearby town of Mastong. Interior Minister Sarfaraz Bukti called the blast a very heinous act. In July, more than 40 people were killed in a suicide bombing in northwestern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province at a religious political party's gathering. Russian President Vladimir Putin was on Friday shown meeting one of the most senior former commanders of the Wagner mercenary group and discussing how best to use quote volunteer units in the Ukraine war. The meeting underscored the Kremlin's attempt to show that the state had now gained control over the mercenary group after a failed June mutiny by its boss Yevgeny Prigozhin, who was then killed with other senior commanders in a plane crash in August. Putin was shown on state television meeting at the Kremlin with Andrei Troshev, a former Wagner commander known by his nom de guerre, Sedoi or Grey Hair. The Kremlin said the meeting took place on Thursday. Deputy Defense Minister Yunusbek Yevkurov, who has traveled over recent months to several countries where Wagner mercenaries have worked, was also present, sitting closest to Putin. Addressing Troshev, Putin said that they had spoken about how quote volunteer units that can perform various combat tasks, above all, of course, in the zone of the special military operation. Putin also said he wanted to speak about social support for those involved in the fighting. Troshev was shown listening to Putin, leaning forward and nodding, pencil in hand. His remarks were not shown. Saudi Arabia is determined to secure a military pact requiring the United States to defend the kingdom in return for opening ties with Israel and will not hold up a deal even if Israel does not offer major concessions to Palestinians in their bid for statehood. Three regional sources familiar with the talk said a pact might fall short of the cast-iron NATO-style defense guarantees the kingdom initially sought when the issue was first discussed between Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Joe Biden during the US President visit to Saudi Arabia in July 2022. Instead, a US source said it could look like treaties Washington has with Asian states, or if that would not win US Congress approval, it could be similar to a US agreement with Bahrain, where the US Navy 5th Fleet is based. Such an agreement would not need congressional backing. Washington could also sweeten any deal by designating Saudi Arabia a major non-NATO ally, a status already given to Israel, the US source said. But all the sources said Saudi Arabia would not settle for less than binding assurances of US protection if it faced attack, such as the September 14, 2019 missile strikes on its oil sites that rattled world market. Riyadh and Washington blamed Iran, the kingdom's regional rival, although Tehran denied having a role. The Democratic-led US Senate forged ahead on Thursday with a bipartisan stopgap funding bill aimed at averting a fourth partial government shutdown in a decade, while the House began voting on partisan Republican spending bills with no chance of becoming law. The divergent paths of the two chambers increased the odds that federal agencies will run out of money on Sunday, following hundreds of thousands of federal workers and halting a wide range of services from economic data releases to nutrition benefits. The House of Representatives passed 3 or 4 bills funding part of the government, though the partisan bills would not alone prevent a shutdown, even if they could overcome strong opposition from Senate Democrats and become law. The Senate earlier in the day had voted 76 to 22 to open debate on a stopgap bill known as Continuing Resolution or CR, which would extend federal spending until November 17th and authorize roughly $6 billion each for domestic disaster response funding and aid to Ukraine to defend itself against Russia. The Senate measure has already been rejected by Republicans who control the House. House Republicans, led by a small faction of hardline conservatives in the chamber they control, by a 221 to 212 margin, have rejected spending levels for fiscal year 2024 set in a deal Speaker Kevin McCarthy negotiated with Biden in May. Sweden's Prime Minister announced that he will hold talks with the head of the Swedish Armed Forces and the police commissioner to discuss ways to stem gang violence following a wave of attacks that have resulted in at least 11 people killed so far this month. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said that he would meet with the Armed Forces Supreme Commander and the National Police Commissioner on Friday to explore, quote, how the armed forces can help police in their work against the criminal gangs. Sweden has never before seen anything like this, Kristersson said on Thursday in a rare televised address to the nation. No other country in Europe is saying anything like this, he said. 2 people were killed in separate shootings in Stockholm on Wednesday, and a woman in her 20s was killed when a bomb tore up a house in Uppsala in the early hours of Thursday. It was not immediately clear in what capacity the military would get involved in tackling Sweden's gang problem, but previous proposals have focused on soldiers taking over protection duties from police to free up more resources for crime fighting. That is the size of top accolade global news update. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy weekend.